In 2020, a company with no product became worth $34 billion. Not a prototype, not a pilot program, nothing. For a brief moment, that company, Nikola Corporation, was worth more than Ford. Ford had been building cars for 117 years. It had factories, assembly lines, global distribution, and millions of cars everywhere. Nikola had been building press releases. That gap between what Nikola was and what the market believed it to be is what this story is about. This video covers how that happened. How a company with no working vehicles reached a valuation most manufacturers never touch. And then, why everything unraveled in a single week. Some of the facts in this story are hard to explain. We'll get to those. Nikola Corporation was founded in 2015 by Trevor Milton. Milton was not an engineer, no automotive background, no hydrogen expertise, no manufacturing experience. He was a salesman. Before Nikola, Milton had founded a company called D-Hybrid Systems, a natural gas trucking startup. It was acquired in 2014. The acquisition gave him modest capital and a foothold in the freight industry. He used both to start Nikola. The company was based in Salt Lake City. The name was deliberate, Nikola Tesla, the inventor associated with electricity, innovation, and disrupted industries. The branding did work. Milton's pitch was clean. Diesel is dying. Clean energy is the future of freight. Someone will build the replacement fleet. He said that someone was Nikola. 2 product lines. Battery electric trucks for regional and shorter routes. Hydrogen fuel cell trucks for long-haul distances where batteries fall short on range. The hydrogen piece was the centerpiece. Hydrogen fuel cells generate electricity through a chemical reaction between hydrogen and oxygen. The only byproduct is water vapor. No combustion, no emissions. The technology is real. It exists in buses, forklifts, and some passenger vehicles. Scaling this for Class 8 semi-trucks, which carry 80,000 pounds over long distances, is a different challenge. Building a national fueling infrastructure for these trucks adds to the complexity. Milton said Nikola would handle all of it. The trucks, the technology, the stations, the network. The market heard it. The market believed it. By 2018, Nikola had collected over $8 billion in pre-orders. No delivered trucks. Just reservations. Letters of intent from fleet operators and logistics companies willing to put down deposits on a product that didn't yet exist. Still, $8 billion in stated intent is not nothing. That number moved people. CNBC covered it. Bloomberg covered it. Forbes covered it. Every major outlet framed Nikola as the company that would reinvent freight transportation. The Tesla comparison appeared in nearly every article. Clean energy, disruptive founder, sky-high ambition. Milton didn't correct anyone. He gave interviews constantly. He posted on social media with the frequency of a consumer brand. He talked about Nikola's technology like someone who had already delivered it. He had solved the tough issues and was just waiting for the world to catch up. In 2020, Nikola went public, not through a traditional IPO, through a SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company. Here's how a SPAC works. A blank check company raises money through a public listing with no underlying business. It then merges with a private company, in this case Nikola, taking it public without the standard IPO process. The key difference? SPACs face less regulatory scrutiny than traditional IPOs. Disclosure requirements are lighter. The timeline is faster. For companies that might struggle under the close examination of a conventional IPO filing, a SPAC offers a more convenient path to public markets. Nikola merged with VectoIQ, a SPAC focused on transportation technology, in June 2020. The stock surged immediately following the merger, market cap $34 billion. Then, in September 2020, General Motors announced a strategic partnership with Nikola. GM would take an 11% equity stake, valued at $2 billion. In exchange, GM would manufacture Nikola's Badger pickup truck using their own Ultium battery platform. GM would also supply fuel cells for Nikola's hydrogen trucks. The announcement was significant for one reason beyond the deal itself. GM is not a company that takes $2 billion equity stakes lightly. Their due diligence process is extensive. Their legal and engineering teams are large. If GM was in, the thinking went, the technology must be real. The company must be what it claims to be. The stock jumped again. But here's what no one asked loudly enough. Why had Nikola delivered a single truck to a single customer? Not a pre-production unit, not a fleet trial. Not one vehicle in commercial operation. The pre-orders were real. The valuation was real. The GM deal was real. The trucks were not. And there was something else. something specific that hadn't surfaced yet, something that would change everything within weeks. September 10, 2020, a short-selling firm called Hindenburg Research published a report on Nikola, 67 pages. Hindenburg specializes in forensic financial research. They investigate companies they believe are overvalued or fraudulent, publish their findings publicly, and profit from short positions, bets that the stock will fall. Their incentive is to be right. Wrong reports expose them to legal liability and reputational damage. The title of this report, Nikola, How to Parlay an Ocean of Lies into a Multi-Billion-Dollar Listed Company. Hindenburg had spent months on the investigation. What they documented was not a single error, not an exaggeration, not a matter of interpretation. It was a pattern. The truck video. In 2018, Nikola released a promotional video titled Nikola One in Motion. It showed their flagship hydrogen semi-truck moving down an open highway. Smooth, controlled, impressive. The video appeared in investor presentations. It was cited as evidence of real working technology. Here's what the video didn't show. The truck had no working drivetrain, no functional engine, no propulsion system of any kind. The production team had towed the truck to the top of a long, gently sloping hill in Utah. They positioned the camera at a low angle. Then they released the truck. Gravity did the rest. The title said, "In motion." That was accurate. The hydrogen claims. Milton had made specific public statements about Nikola's hydrogen production capabilities. He stated the company produced its own hydrogen. He cited the production cost of $16 per kilogram, a number that, if true, would have been commercially competitive and technically significant. He described an operational hydrogen production facility. Hindenburg investigated each claim. They found no evidence of any production facility, no output data, no third-party verification, no documentation of any kind supporting the existence of what Milton had described. The technology claims. Milton had repeatedly stated that Nikola developed its own proprietary technology across multiple systems: battery packs, inverters, electric motors. Proprietary technology is a meaningful claim. It implies patents, engineering teams, research and development cycles, and defensible competitive advantages. Hindenburg found evidence that the components Milton described as proprietary had largely been sourced from existing third-party suppliers. The technology had been purchased, not developed. Then it had been presented publicly as Nikola's own. 3 categories of claims, 3 categories of problems. So what exactly had Nikola built? Days after the report published, Milton resigned as executive chairman. He offered no systematic rebuttal, no line-by-line response to Hindenburg's specific findings. He called the report a hit job. Then he left. The SEC opened a formal investigation into Nikola's disclosures and public statements. The Department of Justice opened a separate criminal investigation. GM quietly restructured the partnership. The Badger truck, the vehicle GM had agreed to manufacture, was dropped from the agreement entirely. GM retained a much smaller role and eventually exited. The $2 billion stake announcement had added billions to Nikola's market cap. The quiet reversal attracted significantly less coverage. July 2021. A federal grand jury indicted Trevor Milton on 4 counts, 2 for securities fraud, 1 for wire fraud, and 1 for making false statements. The indictment was notable for its sourcing. Prosecutors did not rely on internal documents or whistleblower testimony alone. They pulled directly from Milton's public record. This included podcasts he appeared on, media interviews he gave, and social media posts he published. Specific statements about technology readiness, about revenue projections, about the operational status of Nikola's products. The argument was simple. Those statements were false. Milton knew they were false, and investors made financial decisions based on them. October 2022. After a 3-week trial, a federal jury convicted Milton on 3 of the 4 counts, both securities fraud charges and the false statements charge. July 2023. The sentencing hearing concluded with 4 years in federal prison. The judge noted, on record, that the victims were not institutions or sophisticated funds who could absorb the loss. They were ordinary investors, people who read the interviews, watched the videos, believed what they were told. Total investor losses, in the billions. Nikola Corporation still exists. New leadership came in after Milton's departure. Under CEO Michael Loscheller, the company refocused. They narrowed the product line. They cut the hydrogen ambitions and concentrated on battery electric trucks. They made actual progress. Real trucks, real commercial deliveries, beginning in late 2022. That is worth noting, but the cash burn never stopped. The cost of manufacturing, warranty obligations, and infrastructure continued to outpace revenue by a wide margin. The stock, which once traded near $80 per share, dropped below $1. In January 2024, Nikola filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. The company began the process of restructuring its debts and selling its assets. The hydrogen fueling network was never built. The Badger truck was never built. The $34 billion valuation turned into a case study. It shows what happens when a market values a story over a product. The trucks eventually existed. That part is true. But by then, the company was bankrupt. The founder was convicted. The investors had already lost. The market believed first. It investigated second. That sequence, belief before verification, is not unique to Nikola. It happens in cycles. Each time there's a vision, a number, a name that sounds like the future. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, a hill in Utah, a truck with no engine, and a camera rolling. The company still carries the name Nikola. What the name was supposed to mean, that's gone. Subscribe if you want more stories like this.